November 5th, 2025 meeting of the Lower Merion Board of Commissioners. We have 3 meetings this evening. We have a Public Works Committee meeting, a Grants and Community Development Committee meeting, and a Police Committee meeting. Before we start, please silence your cell phones. There is amplifying equipment available for those who are having difficulty hearing. The room is also equipped with telecoil technology. And later, when the floor is open for public comment, we will first take comment from those of you who are in the room. We ask that you use this podium to your left, and then we will turn to those who are attending virtually. So our first meeting this evening is the Public Works Committee meeting, and I recognize its chair, Commissioner Whalen.
Thank you, President Simon. Good evening. This evening, the first matter on our agenda is to receive the tree canopy management plan. So I'm going to make a motion that we recommend to the Board of Commissioners receipt of the tree canopy management plan prepared by the F.A. Bartlett Tree Expert Company, dated June 12th, 2025. Do I have a second? Thank you, Commissioner Epstein. Jesse, hit us.
And good evening, Commissioners. I do have a presentation that I'm going to pull up real quick, so just bear with me. All right, there we go. So I've prepared a brief presentation to walk the board through the tree canopy assessment and tree canopy management plan, and we'll provide background on the 2 different reports, analysis, and key recommendations.
Jesse, would you mind speaking up a little bit or holding the microphone closer?
Yeah, no problem. All right, I'll start off with a little bit of background. The township is fortunate to have a mature and extensive urban forest. This forest exists both on public and private land. On public land, the township manages approximately 70,000 trees that are located within 176 miles of right-of-way across 700 acres of parkland. And in support of this public resource, and as part of the township's sustainability plan, the township went through an RFP process and selected Bartlett Tree Experts to complete the tree canopy assessment and to create a tree canopy management plan. The tree canopy assessment provides a detailed analysis of the township's tree canopy and analyzes and quantifies the historical and current tree canopy coverage to identify the current coverage, changes over time, and coverage gaps. And the tree canopy management plan proposes practical strategies to preserve, enhance, and manage the township's tree canopy through data-driven policies and planting priorities. So up on the screen, first you'll see some of the initial findings from the report. And to come up with this data, Bartlett analyzed current and historical imagery data from the National Agriculture Imagery Program to develop its assessments. So for this analysis, they divided the township into 16 distinct communities or geographies, and using the 2022 image data, Bartlett concluded that 8 of the 16 communities exceed 50% canopy coverage. The highest being Gladwin with 62.4% canopy coverage, then Haverford with 57.1, and Rosemont with 56.5. The lowest coverage areas include East Ardmore with 29.6, West Ardmore with 28.8, and Bala with 28.3. So Bartlett also analyzed the tree canopy coverage by use, and as you can see from the map up on the projector, the residential properties, which are colored in purple, occupy the majority of the land in the township. Residential properties are followed by exempt properties as the second largest use in the township. you will see that the residential properties have also the highest coverage, or canopy coverage, with 56.2%. And that's followed by industrial properties with a 50% coverage. And then the exempt properties, and those include schools, government buildings, religious institutions, and that's 43.4%. And then lastly, the commercial properties, which have a 41.9% coverage. In addition to 2022 data, Bartlett also did a retrospective and looked back at canopy coverage from 2010 and 2015 to assess changes in the tree canopy over time. And what you'll see from this data is that the tree canopy has decreased from 54.7% in 2010 to 53.5% in 2022. But despite the overall decrease, the canopy coverage has increased from 52.8% in 2015 to 53.5% in 2022. So Bartlett does go on to suggest some of the reasons for the decrease, and they cite diseases and pests such as emerald ash borer, which decimated the elm trees, or not, the ash trees, and land development and redevelopment, and then also go on to say that loss just through the, by the loss of our mature trees, the natural loss of those. The report also analyzed the changes in tree canopy coverage by community. And from this analysis, you can see that from 2010 to 2022, the largest decreases were in Bala, Belmont Hills, Kinwood, Marion, and Penn Valley. These losses make sense when you consider the development that is occurring in some of these areas, the maturity of the trees, and the types of trees in these locations. So moving on to the next slide, the report also used a tree equity score to assess the different census tracts within the township. This metric, or in this metric, a score of 100 means that the location has a sufficient number of trees, while a score of 70 and below indicates that the area would benefit from additional trees. The lowest tree equity scores in the township were found in Bala-Kinwood, with 2 census blocks that have ratings of 83 and 84, and in East and West Ardmore, both with ratings of 86. However, the majority of the census tracts in the township have a tree equity score that exceeds 90. So in addition to their analysis, Bartlett has made several recommendations for township staff and for the board to review. The first is to establish a 5- and 10-year tree canopy goal that measures the results of the tree canopy at the 5- and 10-year marks. And the goal of doing this would be to guide long-term investment and measure progress and performance through the 5-year interval of assessments. They also encourage tree planting diversity to mitigate against overplanting of species that could become susceptible to disease or climate change. To encourage diversity, the report recommends following a 30-20-10 rule. And what they mean by this is no more than 30% of the trees that are being planted should belong to the same family. No more than 20% of the trees should belong to the same genus, and no more than 10% of the trees should belong to the same species. Other recommendations include prioritizing our planting based on an ecosystem service prioritization. This is a strategy where planting priority is given to sites that can mitigate things such as stormwater runoff and reduce heat island effect. Another recommendation includes a recommendation to track species performance. So, we would know kind of how our species are doing in the midst of climate change and pests. The report also recommends changes to the shade tree division itself that include integrating the division's current operational policies and safety procedures into a single manual, and fully integrating the township's tree inventory into a GIS asset management system, which would allow for real-time updates from field crews and quick access to reports and records. Now, we do currently use Tracer, but not at the capacity that is recommended in the report. And Tracer is a GIS-based system. So in summary, these two reports provide the board with a strong foundation for informed decision-making and outline recommendations that establish tree canopy goals, strengthen species diversity guidelines, and refine the shade tree division's operational processes. So that's all I got.
Don't sell yourself short. That was pretty impressive. I was actually hoping for a little song and dance at the end. No, nothing? All right. With that, I will ask for, is there any public comment from the room? If you are, please come up, use the podium on that side of the room, and we'd be glad to hear from you. Please just first identify your name and neighborhood.
Good evening, Craig Olliner, Marion Station. Although the Bartlett study demonstrates a decline in canopy township-wide, shade tree canopy was not assessed separately. The township removes and plants 200 street trees annually. The majority of the removed trees are large, but at maturity, the planted trees are a mix of large and small. Bartlett states that a single removed large tree can be replaced by planting another large tree or by planting 5 small trees, thereby maintaining canopy and the myriad other benefits of trees. I looked at Lower Merion's 2025 planting species bid list to determine replacement number, the number of trees that need to be planted to maintain canopy. That number varies by how tree size is characterized. If a tree greater than 30 feet tall at maturity is defined at large, replacement number is roughly 430. If greater than 40 feet is large, replacement number is 620. And if greater than 50 feet, the number is 720. No matter the classification, 200 trees planted is far fewer than needed to maintain shade tree canopy. Leadership has long claimed that the township was limited to placing 200 trees a year because there were so few requests. Understanding this, along with the sustainability manager, I initiated a project designed to generate more applications. Volunteers would distribute door hangers to deliver to inform residents of the township tree program. Over the summer, the sustainability team created a door hanger proof with a planned initial print run of 1,000. I had lined up 14 volunteers eager to deliver the hangers. Recently, however, the township withdrew support for the endeavor, the reason given that the township arborist did not have the time to manage additional trees. But there are several ways to improve the arborist's workflow. For example, rather than planting just in autumn, planting could occur both in spring and fall, consistent with practice in Narberth, Radnor, and many other municipalities. That way, Public Works could double the number of plantings to 400. Some of the arborist's current responsibilities, such as assessing site suitability, could be transferred to the Shade Tree Commission. The arborist's bureaucratic functions could be reassigned to an administrator. I'm certain that the arborist himself could find other ways that would allow the township to plant more street trees. It would be tragic if the time constraints of a single individual were to prevent the township from growing shade tree canopy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else from the public who'd like to speak? Seeing none. Jody, do we have anybody online?
I do have one person with their hand raised, Joe McNeil, and I will put him in as a panelist.
Thank you very much.
Looks like Stevenson.
He looks a lot like Anthony Stevenson.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to participate virtually tonight. Joe McNeil, Ardmore. Just wanted to say two things. The first bullet on the first slide is incorrect. It lists 70,000 trees as existing in the township right away. Roughly 20,000 trees and not 70,000. 70,000 represents both the right of way. And it's an estimate, both the right-of-way and on township lands outside the right-of-way, so just wanted to correct that. Over the last 4 years, the amount of official actions brought before the Shade Tree Commission has almost hit zero. So I do ask the board to consider what the Shade Tree Commission's role will be in implementing the recommendations of the report. Thank you.
Jody, anybody else?
There's no one else online.
Okay. Thank you, Jesse. I'll ask you to stay up here in case anyone else wants to grow you. So I'm next going to go to any questions or comments that we have from the commissioners, but first I would just give a little preamble just to hopefully speed this along. I know we are very opinionated about this. We've talked about this many times at many public meetings recently. I just want to make clear, tonight is only to agree to receive the plan. We are not deciding tonight on next steps or which recommendations we are or are not interested in taking. So therefore, I would suggest, obviously people can do what they want, but I would suggest to this board that we hold off on those comments and limit it to the report itself and the receipt of that report. And I would hopefully, in favor of President Sinai, ask for an ad hoc committee to be formed in 2026 so that that ad hoc committee could really dive into this, the role of the Shade Tree Commission, the other steps raised by Mr. Olander, all these good ideas, and then bring back to this body, review, ideas and kind of a firm timetable and implementation plan for us to review. So again, everyone can say what they want. I'll call on anybody, but I would just throw that out there to Commissioner Simon.
Thank you. So I just want to thank you guys for, and thank Bartlett for putting together this report. I think we as a board had been interested in this kind of inventory and in this kind of assessment, to provide us with information to give us guidance about, as we work through these issues about how to, what we're working with. And I just wanted to highlight something in here that Jesse mentioned, but I think didn't quite come through quite as strongly as I feel, which is that we have seen on average not much change in the canopy in the township, but that average masks really big differences across the township, right? There are lots of differences in the amount of canopy when you go from area to area. Some are 63%, some are 28%. That's a big swing. And there have been big differences in the change in canopy over a decade or so, right? And what has happened is that the areas that started with not so many trees are the ones that lost trees. And so when you say that Marion, for example, the canopy went down by 6.3%, yeah, it went down by 6.3 percentage points, but that was on a base of less than 50%. So it's something like a 14% decline in the canopy. It's worse in Bala, which started at like 35% coverage, lost 7 percentage points of that. That's 20% decline in canopy when you're looking around, right? That strikes me as being really big. That strikes me as an important issue. And the fact that that decline in canopy is masked by increases in canopy elsewhere in the township does not make it not a problem, right? Some of this is natural, right? Like some of it is just, the eastern part of the township is older. The trees were planted 100 years ago. They naturally declined to come down. They were big trees. You replace them with little trees. You're naturally going to get a reduction in the canopy. It will fill back in later. Like all this says to me is that this is an area that like we need to dig into and look under the hood. It doesn't reveal itself to easy answers. I'm just going to echo what Commissioner Whalen suggested, which is, I think it's not necessarily just an ad hoc committee, but perhaps a working group, as Mr. McNeil said. It involves more stakeholders, perhaps, than just a set of commissioners to look at this, right? But we should be using this, I think, this information as a baseline to really dig into it and come up with some policy suggestions for the board to consider. And I hope the board makes it a priority next year. I think there are good recommendations in here: diversity of species and genus, geocoding tree locations and doing an inventory and assessment of tree longevity. It's clear that the township controls the street trees and parks, but it's only a tiny fraction of the tree canopy in the township. What can we do beyond that? A lot of important issues that I hope we take on as a board. Thank you, Commissioner Whalen.
Thank you, President Simon. And Commissioner Zoloff.
Thanks, Commissioner Whalen. Let's start out with a question. Jesse, is it 70,000 or 20,000?
Well, it's 70,000 in both the right-of-way and parkland. So
And parkland?
Yeah, and there's
Okay.
about 700 acres of
The
parkland.
20,000 is just right-of-way? Is that
I'd
right?
have to confirm that. I don't know that. I would have to confirm if
Okay.
of the 70,000, 20,000 is specific to the right-of-way.
Okay. Thank you. I guess I'm going to start with a glass half full or half full comment, which is that the memo says, despite these localized declines, canopy coverage remains robust overall. So that's good news. And recognizing President Sinai's observations about that there are localized declines, and there is therefore reason to consider the recommendations made. Can you explain the final recommendation with regard to the GIS inventory? Is it suggesting that there'll be 70,000 line items in an inventory and every tree will have a number or some identifier?
Yes, yeah, and it goes beyond that too, so that when we're doing work on the trees, that we're updating that database of each tree. So for example, if we have to cut down a tree or we do tree trimming, that information is recorded in the GIS system. And we do that kind of on a limited basis now, but not systematically.
Well, that will be an interesting recommendation for consideration in the future. So I don't recall in the memo, is there, or does the report discuss tree maintenance?
That's interesting. It doesn't really, the reports don't really touch on tree maintenance. It's more about replacement.
Because we have street trees, lots of them. We have street trees in our commercial areas, and they're in a difficult location, right? And when they get big, they impact the buildings that they're very close to. So tree maintenance seems to me for street trees, particularly in commercial areas, is an important issue. So is that something that should be included in this plan? There's going to be a shade tree sort of manual on how to do things. Is that going to include maintenance?
Yeah, I would think
I see
so,
that,
and Paul wants to-
Jesse, that the big cheese is coming up to the microphone.
So this report doesn't include maintenance. The policy that we follow, we trim for safety at this, is how we address
Okay.
trees. We're not trimming for complete appearance. The guys do their best, but their main focus is the safety of the tree itself for the public and so forth. So we have a board certified arborist. And the crews are trained in best tree practices for their cutting and for their maintenance of the trees. So that's an ongoing thing that they take. They have continuing education for those type of classes. So, we have a very skilled group, very well-educated group on the actual cutting and care of the trees.
Okay, thanks for that explanation, Paul. As this advances, I think that, and I'm looking for the reference, but there's a reference to Shade Tree will have a manual of how to do things. It seems to me maintenance should be included in that.
Well, that manual is more so that we have several different manuals on what our policies are, what our safety manual is and all, and their recommendation is to take all that so that you could walk into the shade tree department, you could walk into the public works department and pull it off the shelf. Because we have, here, here, and here. But I will say that, in my office alone, I have contracts, I have, our policies, I have our, numerous manuals that way. And they're just saying, take shade tree, put it in one binder right there as a reference for anybody who might want to see it or for a staff member who might want to go through it.
So it's not recommending creation of something new.
No, it's taking everything that we
recommending putting them
have,
all in the same
get our arms around it.
same 3-ring binder.
Yeah,
Okay, got it.
exactly.
And maintenance is included in all of the documentation you currently have.
We have, what it references is our practices for safety pruning and cutting.
Okay,
And for the
yeah.
healthiness of the tree.
Understood. Okay. I think that is the extent of my questions and comments. Thank you, Commissioner Whalen.
Thank you, Commissioner Zoloff. Commissioner Rossman.
Thank you, Commissioner Whalen. Jesse, just for my own knowledge, the ash borer, that affects any tree, or we've had a number of sycamores taken down in Bala?
I think the ash borer is specific to the ash tree. And, there are other diseases that are affecting different species of tree within the township. Like, I know, for instance, in my yard, I have a pin oak that's suffering from a bacterial issue.
Thank you. The second thing is, I think this is a great report. Great read, thank you. Lastly, when trees within the passive park systems are removed, it says they create wildlife snags. What does that mean? Thank you, Joe.
Hi, I'm Joe Marco, Township Arborist. Wildlife snags is just for the most part, taking the branches off of the tree and leaving a trunk or maybe some branches for wildlife to live in, maybe birds, squirrels, raccoons to make their nest. Where even if it falls, it's not going to affect or be a safety hazard for.
Okay, so it doesn't snag the wildlife and prevent them?
No, it's there
okay,
for
that's
them
what
to
the
use
impression I had.
however they need, naturally.
Okay, thank you.
Talk about diseases real quick.
Oh, and the emerald ash borer does only affect ash trees.
Excuse me?
The emerald ash borer does only affect ash trees.
Oh, good, thank you.
If I may, just quickly, so Joe, being the studious individual that he is, has been working with one of the tree companies because we've discovered another disease that's affecting, beech trees.
The beech leaf
And
disease.
we've taken and budgeted for a program with the tree service to see what we can do as preventative care to try to stay off or to slow the disease in its attack of the beech trees. So Joe was made aware that some of it that had been found on private property within the township and began to investigate our tree canopy that he maintains to look for it. And we spoke to the manager about getting funds initially to start treatment to see what kind of, what we could do and how it would help us, if it would help us. So they're the steps that Joe takes when it comes to maintenance and so forth, some of what he does.
Each of you and your knowledge on this report, it was terrific, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Rossman. Commissioner Churchill?
Thank you very much. Just a point of information came from Commissioner Zoloff. You're going to identify and number all 70,000 trees. Is that correct? Something that predates me is that there was a tagging more than 16 years ago, and I think it was abandoned. And fill me in.
So we've had tree inventories done before. What we currently have is Joe has an inventory. It's on one system. It doesn't bridge into our tracer system, our GIS system. So they're recommending that we do another tree survey, basically. Now, we don't use the tagging system anymore because we have the GIS capability. Joe can walk out to a tree, same as we can with any asset, a stop sign, whatever. With the laptop tablets that we give them, you can GIS mark exactly what's there. So we would have that inventory. Joe currently works off the old inventory as a stopgap. As Joe touches a tree, he adds it into the tracer system. So that's when Jesse mentioned earlier, a limited, it's as we progress through trees and maintain trees, they get added into the system. The report's recommending that we update and do a new survey. And it wouldn't include the tags because, as you know, tags fall off. So it's easier just to GIS pin them.
Okay. So what you're saying is that we probably have better technology to inventory our trees.
I would say yes, in the sense of when we've found flaws in the old survey because trees were tagged that were outside of the right of way and so forth. With the current GIS technology and all, we have a much more defined right of way line.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easier to define, is it in, is it out? And then, as I said, with the capability to actually pin an asset, we know exactly where it is. You know, a stop sign or someone removes a no parking sign because they don't want it, staff can walk out literally and go, yeah, it was here. They don't have to take measurements. They don't have to do any of that anymore.
And it's usually 20 feet from the center of the road?
That's rule of thumb, but we check every right-of-way because there's right-of-ways that have been taken or with development projects. As a prime example, East Levering Mill, we did the sidewalk there. When we got closer to Belmont Avenue, the right-of-way was taken in the 50s. There was no right-of-way left. So we do, you know, when any tree comes in, staff's tasked with verifying right away, checking what's in, you know, what is the defined right away. And it can, we use, as a general rule of thumb, 20 feet to give people an idea, but we verify.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Churchill?
Yes, thank you.
Any other commissioners have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I would just like to say, gentlemen and Mr. McElhenney,
Well received.
we very much appreciate all the hard work that went into this. And to the extent that you need any boots on the ground, there are a number of people who are up here who are going to have a lot of free time on their hands in January. And I think they're all raising their hands to help you guys out however you can. So I'm very much in support of this. And so now all we have to do is take a vote to see who wants to, I guess, formally receive the plan that we've just discussed. So all in favor, say aye. Aye. You can use your hands. Any opposed? I dare you. Ironically, seeing none and no abstentions, that passes unanimously, Jody. Thank you, guys. All right. So now, I just closed where I was. All right, we're back to 75. Yep, thank you. All right, so, Brandon's working on that. All right, our second agenda item for this evening is to seek the authorization to proceed with design and bidding for select high-priority sidewalk segments. So I'm going to again start with a motion. I move to recommend to the Board of Commissioners authorizing staff to proceed to final design and public bidding for the high-priority sidewalk segments identified and funded by CIP 4297 and listed below, and authorization to initiate the design process for the remaining high-priority sidewalk segments, East Spring Avenue, Granville Road to Sutton Road, Landfair Road, existing sidewalk to Coulter Avenue, Clothier Road, Morris Road to Ballator Road, Clover Hill Road, Morris Road to Lancaster Avenue, and Remington Road, Trent Road to Tompkin Road.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Grimes. I wasn't even there yet, but with a second,
All right, thank you.
please take it
And
away, Joe.
Good evening, everyone. And today we're basically presenting the current status of the sidewalk program for the roads that you've already mentioned. And in general, the field surveys and preliminary engineering has been completed for these high priority segments that were previously selected by the Board of Commissioners. And the work completed to date was done in coordination with the Public Works Department and the Ad Hoc Sidewalk Committee. So what we'll do is walk through, what Abraham will do is walk through each location and briefly describe some of the opportunities and constraints that we've encountered along the way. And we're really not looking for feedback from the board on some of the specific details of the design tonight, but we are seeking, guidance for proceeding to final design and bidding for any of the completed, for any or all of the completed segments. And just note that the final design is still subject to input from the ward commissioner, the township committees and commissions, and property owners. So, and we'll wrap it up with, projections for the next batch of sidewalk sections. Very ambitious program, and we're trying to prioritize what we're going to, move to survey and proceed with preliminary engineering in tandem with the final design of these segments. So, there you go. So in general, this is the schedule that we follow, that we've decided to follow for these sidewalk projects to keep things moving. So once we have a preliminary design review, the preliminary design completed, we'll review that with township staff, and then once we have a clear direction from them, we'll move to preliminary design with the committee and the ward commissioner. From there, we engage the property owners and the committees and stake out the sidewalks. That's when we really that's where we'll be heading next with these projects. And then, once the designs are final, we know exactly what right-of-way we need. We have to get that, finalize construction documents, and then the bidding process, and we award. For each one, this could take, this whole procedure from the time we get the preliminary design to the time we can go to construction, it can take upwards of 14 months. I mean, it's 14 months. It is an involved process, and it does require some iterations back and forth, especially when we get, when we engage the residents and the public to kind of be mindful of certain aspects of their properties that we don't want to disrupt. So as we already stated, these are the list of the high priority sidewalks. And I just wanted to take one quick step back before Abraham walks you through the projects themselves. We met with the ad hoc committee because the township subdivision and land development ordinance that you all adopted recently has specific requirements for the width of the sidewalk, the width of the verge, depending on the street. And that's the gold standard that we try to achieve, wherever we are in the township. Right now, for most of the streets that these sidewalks will be put on, a 5-foot sidewalk with a 3 to 4 foot verge would be required in accordance with the township code. That being said, these are sidewalk retrofits. We're introducing sidewalk already into the built environment, and there are obstacles in the way. There's utility poles, there's trees, there's fences. The way these properties have been occupied are not completely conducive to the township standard. So what we decided as in the ad hoc committee was that what is the minimum standard? The minimum standard is what's required by the public right-of-way accessibility guidelines. And they require a 4-foot sidewalk. If you're putting in or replacing a sidewalk within the right-of-way, they require a 4-foot sidewalk, no verge. Every 200 feet, you have to provide a 5-foot by 5-foot landing area for ADA accessibility. But that's the minimum standard. And that's not the standard that we're applying off the bat, but it is something that we're keeping in mind as we start making modifications to accommodate the existing occupation within the right-of-way. With that, I will stop talking and allow Abe to walk you through some of the individual segments. Now we're going to do it.
All right. Well, thank you, Joe. Good evening, board. I'm going to walk you, pun completely intended because we're talking sidewalks, through the 5 segments that we have ready for the next phase of development and going forward with residents, commissioners, community involvement, and hopefully the next step after that. There, is that better for you? Look. All right, thank you. All right, our first segment is East Spring Avenue from Grandview to Sutton Road. It's over in Ardmore, and this is one of the more straightforward segments that we'll have that we are able to put together a sidewalk and verge package for. While trying to avoid conflicts with existing right-of-way and trees, we're able to provide a 4-foot wide sidewalk with a 2-foot verge. There will be a minimal amount of right-of-way that we need to obtain at the intersection of Sutton and Grandview so that we can provide ADA accessible ramps so that we can have a crosswalk at that intersection. The second segment that we'll go through here is Landfair Road at the intersection of Coulter Avenue. There's an existing sidewalk coming from Church Road down toward Suburban Square, and it cuts off, and as most of you are probably familiar, there's no sidewalk as we approach Coulter Avenue. And at Coulter Avenue, there's currently a traffic pork chop, and the pork chop creates a little bit of road user confusion for pedestrians and for motorists. And this gives us an opportunity to be able to realign the intersection, as you see here in the graphic, and provide a better experience for both pedestrians and motorists as they travel through the intersection. Roadway alignment will allow us to actually extend the sidewalk out into the current right-of-way. And the right-of-way in this area actually is in a non-conforming, non-traditional state, so it gives us an opportunity to be a bit creative while still, again, providing additional protection and a better experience for pedestrians and motorists as they approach this intersection. Our plan, I'll go back, our plan will allow for a 4-foot wide sidewalk here, which will allow us to tie into existing sidewalks along Coulter and the existing sidewalk coming from Church Road down towards Coulter Avenue, and we'll have a 2-foot wide verge as we approach that intersection there. Our next segment is one of the longer segments that we have as part of our sidewalks program. It's Clothier Road as we go from Morris Road to Ballytor Road. Fortunately here, we have a pretty decent amount of right-of-way that we're able to introduce sidewalks to. At the same time that we're able to introduce sidewalk, we'll also have to pay attention to some of the trees that exist along some of the right-of-way areas. And what we want to do is be able to avoid as many opportunities, avoid as many of the trees that we possibly can, maintaining what's there without having to remove them. Our design allows for us to be able to introduce a 5-foot wide sidewalk here, mostly because there aren't any sidewalks currently in this area, and a 3-foot wide verge, which should give a very comfortable residential feel to a roadway that actually operates at 25 miles an hour. Proposed work mostly is within our right-of-way with very limited need for acquiring new right-of-way. I think one of the main areas is at a pinch point where we have a culvert that goes underneath the road, but it's something that can be very easily achieved. Our fourth segment Clover Hill Road from Lancaster to Morris. Again, able to provide a pretty decent amount of sidewalk and verge because we have a decent amount of right-of-way along Clover Hill Road. And because Clover Hill Road comes to a major intersection at a state route at Lancaster Avenue, at an intersection it also has very awkward geometry. This provides another opportunity to improve the experience for both motorists and pedestrians. This intersection is very much in line for an upgrade for its signals, for the pedestrian crosswalk the pedestrian crosswalk infrastructure, and also it provides one of the gateway entries for the Wynwood Shopping Center. So being able to improve this intersection would fit in very nicely with our sidewalk program. We'll be able to get a 5-foot sidewalk along Clover Hill, provide a 3-foot verge to 3.5-foot verge, and most of the work will be contained within existing township right-of-way or existing PennDOT right-of-way, with a small exception of the southeast corner where a little bit of right-of-way would be needed to be able to install ADA accessible facilities. And the fifth of the sidewalk segments that we're looking to move forward with will be Remington Road between Trent and Haverford. It's actually going to be Remington Road with a couple of segments. The first segment is from Trent to Haverford. The intersection of Remington and Haverford was recently upgraded by PennDOT. Actually, Remington and Haverford was updated by PennDOT, and the connection for the sidewalk would take us down to the frontage of Wynwood Valley Park and also provide connections for local schools and other places of worship in this particular corridor. We'll be able to provide a 5-foot wide sidewalk and a 3-foot wide verge with all of our facilities completely contained within existing township right-of-way. Moving further along Remington Road, crossing Haverford, we'll be able to put in a sidewalk along Remington going from Haverford up to Tompkin Road. This area, we're fortunate to have a pretty wide amount of right-of-way along the western side of Remington Road. We'll be able to get a 5-foot wide sidewalk with a 6-foot wide verge, and we will have minimal amounts of transportation, of temporary construction easements needed at the intersection of Haverford and Remington Road. Again, our sidewalks will tie into the existing infrastructure that PennDOT recently refurbished at that intersection. Again, most of our work will be contained within the existing township right-of-way. Along Remington Road, there are several trees, utility poles, and a few other existing obstructions that we'll have to work around. However, being able to have an area that gives us a 5 to 6 foot wide verge will allow us to comfortably be able to maneuver our sidewalk and still have a comfortable verge for pedestrians along this particular stretch of Remington. All right, and with that, I'll return things back to Joe.
So, and just in general, you know, these plans are preliminary in nature, and they're subject to change. You know, as we proceed to the next phase to final design, and we're coordinating with the committees, commissions, and residents and commissioners. There are conceptually will probably be, you know, as Abe explained them, but there will probably be some minor tweaks to accommodate some of concerns from, you know, all those stakeholders. We took another look at our preliminary cost estimates that we did when we put this program together for you about a year ago, and you know our numbers are still based, you know, in line with what we had. You know, some adjustments made for inflation, but you know, this is a program that I have my numbers here somewhere. If you add this all up, I think it's in your pockets. It's somewhere in the neighborhood. It's 2.3, you know, just shy of $2.3 million total, just to get through this first phase of high priority sidewalks, and we have a lot to go beyond that. And as promised, to wrap things up, there are 14 segments of sidewalks that were still identified as high priority, and you know, we're trying to get this done as quickly as possible for the residents of Lower Merion Township. So in order for us to get it done in a limited amount of time, we should be starting on the next phase as we're completing the first phase. So that's what we're looking for, additional direction from the board tonight on, of these 14, if you have a preference to, and honestly, we don't need an answer tonight if you want to think about it, but what is the preference to proceed to the next for 2026? And to take a line out of Jesse's book, that's all I got.
All right. Now you have a song and dance for me, though, right? Somebody, come on. All right. Thank you very much, Joe and Abe. That was very thoughtful and considerate, and obviously a huge amount of work. I know I work with plans all day. I know how much time and energy went into each one of those, so very nicely done.
Thank you.
Well, let me go to public comment first. Is there any public comment in the room? Mr. Olander, it's all you.
And Jody, this will be short. Craig Olander, Marion Station. Additional sidewalk installation is a meaningful advance. It indicates that the Board of Commissioners' commitment to improving township quality of life and the board's recognition that mobility is freedom. The sidewalk design documents display 56 red X's, each apparently designating a shade tree scheduled for removal. Using Google Maps Street View, it appears that some of the X's represent more than one tree. By my calculation, roughly 90 street trees will be discarded along the 2/3 of a mile total project length. Numerous shrubs will also be eliminated. What is not clear is how many new trees will be placed, the net change in tree number, and the net change in canopy. It's important to remember the Bartlett rule. To maintain canopy and the numerous other benefits of trees, 1 large or 5 small tree replacements are required for every large tree removed. So the questions are, will new trees be placed? How many? What species? What is the net change in tree number? And considering the Bartlett rule, what is the net change in canopy? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Hello, I'm Rich Widman, Marion Station. I'm also the chair of the Shade Tree Commission. And these plans show about 50 trees being removed. And as you know, the Shade Tree Commission has custody over trees in the right-of-way. Now, for over a year now, the Shade Tree Commission has been repeatedly trying to get involved in the sidewalk plans, but to this date, we haven't been involved at all. So the plans, other than showing trees, other than showing trees to be removed, there is no mention of trees in the sidewalk plans at all that I've seen. And both the township code and the comprehensive plan show a desire by the township to have trees lining the streets. The current plan not only eliminates trees, but it eliminates the planting sites for trees. In most cases, there's not room in the right-of-way to have, a 5-foot sidewalk and, planting trees. So sites for planting trees need to be designed into the plans from the beginning. You can't just shoehorn the trees in after the plans are done. Then I've been involved in the Shade Tree Commission for 20 years, and we've never pulled out concrete to plant a tree. So, in many of our, I suggest that in some of these 5-foot wide sidewalks, why can't you narrow it down to 3 feet and leave some room, an 8-foot strip, maybe a 3-foot sidewalk to put a planting pit in. I mean, a lot of our residential streets, if somebody parks a car, the street's a single lane and we still manage to have 2-way traffic. So I don't think you need a continuous 5-foot wide sidewalk in many of these places. Also, having a straight 5-foot far wide sidewalk for going on without trees, it doesn't look great, and it doesn't provide shade for the pedestrians either. And the plans also don't address how they're going to deal with trees that are to remain. The township code has requirements for protecting trees during construction, but typically the township doesn't follow the township code on protecting trees during construction projects. So my concern is that if these plans go out for bid as is, that trees that could be saved could be lost, and opportunities to plant new trees will be lost forever because there's just not room for the trees being made. And that's what I have about trees, but I'm surprised there's nobody here talking about stormwater, that you could be incorporating some stormwater management into this also when you're putting down this much concrete. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public in the room? Seeing none. Jody, do we have any members on the online?
I do, Joe McNeil, and I'll put him in as a panelist.
Still looking very much like Mr. Stevenson. There we
Hello
go.
again. Thank you again for allowing me to participate virtually. I have 3 quick comments. Adding sidewalks where it makes sense is a public good, so thank you for engaging in this endeavor. As previously stated, over the last 4 years, the amount of official actions brought before the Shade Tree Commission has almost hit 0. A read of Township Ordinance, however, makes it appear that legally the Commission must be an administrative approving party on any project that includes trees on Township property. Specifically, ordinance states the Shade Tree Commission has a responsibility for the custody and control of all Township trees. I'd ask the board to ensure the Commission can carry out its ordinance with regard to planting, maintaining, and removing trees. Final comment. During sidewalk installation, it is an excellent time to plant new trees along the areas where sidewalks are being installed. Thank you.
Anyone else, Jody? All right. Similarly, in this matter, before I turn to Commissioners' comments, I will just start with a disclaimer further to Joe's presentation. Starting off with, I understand that sidewalks in general have been a hotly discussed and debated topic amongst this board for, I think, the entirety of my tenure, 6 years here. Largely with overwhelming support, but I don't want to suggest that everyone's supportive, and quite possibly, albeit maybe differing support and overwhelming support for different locations than we may have just seen tonight. So I would suggest that that's not really appropriate to continue that debate tonight. But more importantly, you, like I, may have been a little surprised to see actual plans in the in the package tonight. So the public may have also, and I think Joe addressed this, but I just want to make clear, these are not the final plans. These are not the designs. We are not weighing in on them tonight. We're not providing any comments or direction to our engineer about these plans tonight. In fact, each one of these plans for each segment will come separately before this board, and we will have an opportunity to have a full and robust discussion about the plan at that point in time. As Joe said, before the plan even comes to us, it's going to involve all the stakeholders. So I would suggest, I hope that's the Shade Tree Commission as well. That was points well brought. It also will involve, anyone who needs to have input here will have input before we get there. So tonight we are not talking about or debating about whether there should be a 3-foot sidewalk or a 5-foot sidewalk or this corner or that corner. So I just wanted to make that clear because probably all of you, like myself, have very strong opinions about that, and we could be here a very long time debating each one individually. So with that mild censorship, Commissioner Rossman.
Thank you. I want to make a comment. When I first came on this board, I was approached by many of my constituents on East Levering Mill Road, and it's to everyone that I address this. I must say that Abe went door to door, met with many of the constituents, organized meetings, and they've done a phenomenal job of retaining the trees on East Levering Mill Road. It's about a half a mile. We had a lot of sycamore trees. They were preserved. I don't see any coming down now. There was one dead tree there originally. I think Joe and you know which one. and it was half dead. It was half alive, but that's it. They went out of their way, Pannoni did, to make sure that the trees were preserved, and it worked out terrific. So I compliment you as a team, what you've done, and you really went over over and above what was expected. And I have not gotten complaints since.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rossman. President Sinai.
Thank you, Commissioner Whalen. So I first want to respond to public comment. I'll just say that I chaired the ad hoc sidewalk committee, and I think Commissioner Whalen put it exactly right. There is a lot of wood to chop between now and when anything gets built. But we are approaching budget season, and we need a sort of sense of cost to be able to move it forward as we go to this design decision. So we need enough to know what kind of right-of-way we're going to need to acquire and a ballpark amount of what it's going to cost. Because otherwise, I too would have been very surprised to see the designs here. I think the designs are premature that we see here because they are far from final. And I just want to I think Mr. Widman said a lot of things that, with the shade tree, the sidewalk, ad hoc sidewalk committee had one meeting where we gave broad feedback on this, not specific feedback on the plans. And I believe the next direction was to go to the ward commissioners with them to get the ward commissioner feedback before it ever came to anyone else. But the kind of feedback we were getting, I felt like I was hearing it from Mr. Widman, right? Like we have existing trees and we have existing landscapes, and it's nice to have 5 feet of sidewalk, but would we as a board trade 5 feet for 4 so we could have a verge that's big enough to planting trees? I think the ad hoc committee thought we would, right? We can't go to 3 because it's not ADA compatible, but we can go to 4 feet instead of the 5 that's in the code. And we should have that flexibility and discretion as we go through it, right? The red X's here are existing trees that are in conflict with the sidewalk that's drawn. It does not mean that the tree would have to be taken out. Like maybe we curve or move or all these other things that we have done before, but they are things we have to pay attention to. So Mr. McNeil had a suggestion that I think is terrific. It's an opportunity to plant additional trees and do additional landscaping as you're putting in the sidewalks, right? Walkability without shade does not make a whole lot of sense to me, right? I think these are important things for us to do in concert, and we need to do that. It does make sense to drill down on that when we get to segment by segment and we're working on each segment rather than doing it at this stage in the game. But I feel like the feedback that the ad hoc committee was very much in line with what we just heard. I think these were all really important things to take into consideration. We have roads that are wide. Maybe we take some of the roadway to create additional verge and narrow the road and do a little traffic calming while we're creating a little more green at the same time, right? These are all things that should be in consideration. I think Commissioner Rossman was exactly right. The experience on Levering Mill is that's exactly what happened there, right? That was the design iteration that happened. It took a lot of time and got a much better outcome at that stage of the game, and that seems to be important. So the questions I have are really about the cost. Clearly, given the design, some tree conflicts are going to be unavoidable. Sometimes previously we have moved trees or replanted trees or things like that. I guess planted new trees. Is that part of the budget? Like the cost of dealing with the red X's if we have to, that's already incorporated in there. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
we did do an
Great.
assessment for the trees.
And then you mentioned the cost estimate sort of you being kind of in line with what we had originally done. We had originally, as a board, said we've got $8 million allocated toward sidewalk segments, and I think one of the things I'm thinking on are we kind of you did all these preliminary estimates, and now pushes the rubber's hitting the road here. Is this budget-wise kind of on track where we thought we would be within that $8 million? Are we using up more of it for these segments? Less? Where does this number that we're looking at here compare to what we thought it was back when we kind of improved the concept?
Excellent question, Mr. President. I've slowly supplanted our engineer to take the mic, so excuse me. We did run the numbers. While it's hard to tell you where we are in that total $8 million range, right? We can tell you definitively with these 5 segments specifically, we were off about, give or take, $70,000. So, you
Sorry,
know,
give it how much?
about 70,000 for
Out
the,
of 2.4 million or something?
2.3 million.
2.3
odd,
million.
yeah. So we were off by about 70,000, which is
That's
probably
impressive.
some of the best numbers that Panoni has put out. I've asked them for lotto numbers.
Okay.
But, you know, we are about 70,000 more than what we originally anticipated. So that's where we are. And I will also make a note in terms of not only these projects, but also our sidewalk program as a whole. We have about, I think, 2 or 3 grant applications to various funding agencies specifically for sidewalk programs. And the way we worded them is that it's general enough that we can apply them across the board. So if we have, if we want to move, you know, some projects forward, we can do that. Hopefully, we should hear by the end of this month for some of them. And hopefully, we get some money to offset some of the costs that we would incur because of these projects.
Okay. Thank you very much. Commissioner Whalen, those are my questions. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, President Sinai. Commissioner Zeloff.
Thank you, Commissioner Whalen, and I have budget questions, but thanks, they've been answered. So I guess to better understand, the general project schedule is what's to come?
For these segments, we are somewhere in the first, we're just beyond the first bullet of preliminary engineering with staff. We're at the stage where we're coordinating with committees and, you know, well, we're beyond, I'm sorry, I got to get the slide in front of me. Give me a minute.
Committees and the ward commissioner?
Yes, that's the stage where we're at for all of the segments that are presented tonight.
Okay. So that means property owners have not been contacted?
Have not been engaged yet. No, we wouldn't do that until we talk to the ward commissioner first.
Got it, okay. I guess, looking at my list of questions, I think that's the questions I had. I mean, we have so for my comments, and, you know, Commissioner Whalen, this is the first time we've seen specifics from 8 million over 5 years, which was a year ago. So my views today are the same as they were then. We have an enormous CIP agenda. I think we need to finish a lot of those projects before we start these big projects. So I won't be supporting this, and that's why. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Zoll. And just to be clear, Commissioner Zoll, I wasn't trying to keep you from making any comments or questions about such things. I was just letting everybody know more respectfully that you were going to have a lot of opportunities to raise questions about what was going on,
And
just so you didn't feel like it was all
Appreciate that
tonight.
you've done it. So these will be coming back
Individually.
individually, as has been stated in the past.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you. Commissioner Gilda-Kramer.
I just have a comment, which is that I think it's incredibly important to make this community safer for pedestrians and more walkable and sustainable in the process, and so I fully support moving forward on this.
Any other commissioners? Commissioner Churchill.
Thank you very much. I am a short timer, so I will deviate from what you would like. This, on number 5 Remington Road, the first part from Trent Road to Haverford, I think the neighborhood would support. It's the second portion. I think originally when we had talked about this, the sidewalk was going to be extended from Haverford Road to Lloyd's Lane, which is a block shorter. And it was, I had assumed that it was going to be on the east side and not the west side. I would say 90% of the pedestrians that would use go from either Lloyd's Lane or Tompkins to, they're heading towards Penguin School. And in order I would say 90% of the pedestrian traffic are going to be on the east part of Remington Road. So to put a sidewalk on the west side, in my opinion, would not make a lot of sense unless you have a long-range plan to connect that sidewalk all the way to Lancaster, which our township manager is probably rolling his eyes because that's probably an $8 million project in itself. I know that there's going to be other opportunities to discuss this, but I would, from Haverford to Lloyd's Lane is the most dangerous part of this project. There's only about a 2-foot clearance where pedestrians can walk right now. So I would certainly, for budget restraints, just stop at Lloyd's Lane and get that done on the east side. If you can extend it to Tompkins Road, that's fine. But the most important part of this sidewalk is going to be from Haverford to Lloyd's Lane. It's not very long, but it's going to be very expensive. So thank you for indulging me.
Of course, thank you, Commissioner Churchill. And to Joe, I would just suggest you may have just gotten a brief glimpse into what you're going to get a lot more of when you actually meet with Commissioner Churchill.
I took the notes.
Anyone else? Commissioner Bernheim.
And first, my apologies if what I'm about to ask has already been covered, being late. Before I do that, I need to note that while Commissioner Churchill calls himself a short timer, no one has been advocating sidewalks for a longer time than he has. That being said, what are the design costs that we're talking about right now? The memo refers to, $2,268,000. I'm assuming that's the entire construction cost. But what are these design costs that we're talking
It's
about
included
here?
in those numbers.
All right, but
I don't have a breakout for them, but you can assume somewhere in the neighborhood of 10% of those numbers are the final design costs.
all right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bernheim. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I will call this for a vote. Commissioner Grimes isn't here, so I'll say all those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. All right, all but one. Anyone opposed? Commissioner Zeloff? Any abstentions? Seeing none. I didn't count, but we're sum to one. And with that, as soon as Jody gets the final count, I will.
11 in favor, 1 opposed.
All right. I will cede the floor, and we are done with Public Works for this evening.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner Whalen. Our next committee meeting this evening is the Grants and Community Development Committee. I recognize this chair, Commissioner Epstein.
Okay, there are 2 items on the agenda. I don't think we're going to talk a lot. The first, let's go. I'm making a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval to add $10,000 to the staff-approved emergency project expense of $25,000 for a total of $35,000, excluding lead-related work, to bring a home in Narberth to minimum standards pursuant to CDBG regulations. Thank you for the second, Commissioner Woodring. I mean, it's the same old, but if you want to give a sentence or two.
It's the same old thing. I'm just requesting waiver for the emergency program spending limit on a CDBG owner-occupied project. If anybody,
Yeah, no, it's good work, and we need to do it because we need to get lit at homes. Okay, anyone in the room, comment? Anyone online? I'm too fast, look at that.
No one online has their hand raised.
Okay, committee, seeing none. All right, all those in favor, raise your hands. That is passing unanimously. Thank you very much, everyone. Second and last item. I'm making a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners I just said the Board of Commissioners twice, approval to add $34,500 to the staff-approved emergency project expense of $25,000 for a total of $59,500 to bring a home in Bryn Mawr to minimum standards pursuant to CDBG regulations. Thank you, Commissioner Woodring, for the second. Emily, anything weird here? All good?
Nope,
Yeah,
nothing
okay.
weird.
Anyone in the public? Anyone online?
No.
Anyone up here? Okay, all those in favor? Thank you, that passes unanimously, and that concludes the business, and I think I broke a record.
Excellent.
Did I? Did I? It was good, right? I think it was like a minute. It was.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Emily, I appreciate you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Epstein. We are going to work on getting you agenda with like a 4-page motion that you have to read. Our next committee meeting is the Police Committee. I recognize its Chair, Vice President Kramer.
Thank you, President Sinai. We have 3 items on tonight's agenda, one regarding parking meter rates, one regarding traffic, and a police department activity report. And so I will start the meeting by making a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners authorizing the Township Secretary to advertise notice of intent to adopt an ordinance to amend the Code of the Township of Lower Merion, Chapter 145 thereof, entitled Vehicles and Traffic, Article 15, Schedules, Section 145-122, on highway parking meter zones, rates to increase parking meter rates generally, and Section 145-123, Schedule 23, off-highway parking meter zones, rates to increase parking meter rates in municipal lots generally, and to establish a kiosk rate for the Cricket Garage. Do I have a second? Thank you, President Sinai. Assistant Township Manager Ford, please tell us more.
Thank you, Commissioner. I feel a little out of breath just having experienced all of that, so. We are going to get you a time for how fast that was, by the way. It was a minute, there you go. Good evening, Commissioners. As Commissioner Kramer explained, we are here asking to advertise, or your recommendation to advertise an ordinance which would amend the parking meter rates throughout the township. The current rate is set across the township at 50 cents per hour, which was last adjusted in 1999. Again, that was 1999. For frame of reference, I was 13 years old and had a lot more hair. It migrated southward, but it was about 25 years ago. So between 1999 and now in 2015, we have not adjusted the parking meter rates in the township. That includes both the short-term and the long-term meters in our business districts, which includes those that are found along the street, as well as those in our township-owned public parking lots. Specifically, what this proposed amendment would do is that it would increase the parking meter fee from 50 cents per hour to $1 an hour across the township, with the exception of 6 locations. At the meters on Rittenhouse Place, the meters on Cricket Avenue, the meters on Cricket Terrace, as well as the meters found in the municipal lot on Cricket Terrace, which is Lot 5, as well as the township-owned public parking lot at Schaffel Plaza, which is Lot 6. All of those would go from 50 cents per hour to $1.50 per hour. That 6th location I reference is the Cricket Avenue parking garage, which is a thing, although people deny it is. But we do have metered parking in the Cricket Avenue public parking garage, and those would stay at 50 cents an hour. So it increases across the township, with the exception of those 5 locations I referenced, from 50 cents to $1. And in those 5 locations, again, Rittenhouse, Cricket Avenue, Cricket Terrace, and the 2 lots at Cricket Terrace and Schaffel would go from 50 cents to $1.50. Cricket Avenue public parking garage would stay as it currently is at 50 cents an hour. The reason we're coming forward to you with this is that, again, it's been 25 years since we've adjusted rates. The rates that we are charging have not kept up with the overall cost for maintaining those parking meters, as well as our overall parking services program. I am joined by our parking service director, Jerry Adams, should you have any specific questions about the operations of our parking service department. But in addition to adjusting it to meet that increase in cost of maintenance and operation, we also see this as an opportunity to increase turnover, specifically in our business districts. What we have found, especially as you all know, we did present the Ardmore parking plan, is that we have a lot of long-term parking right in front of a lot of our business districts, especially in Ardmore. What that means is that we have people who are parking there for hours on end, employees who are parking there all day, and taking up spots that could otherwise be turned over at a quicker rate to customers who would otherwise frequent the business and then go on their way, opening up the spot for another customer to increase business along the corridors. And it would also, promote people to use the garage by keeping it at the current rate. Should the board entertain this notion to increase the various rates, township staff estimates that would generate roughly $900,000 annually. And with that, if you have any questions, we're happy to answer.
Thank you, Brandon.
That's all I have, just to add that.
That's all you got? Okay, great. Any member of the public would like to make comment? No? Okay. Anybody online?
I do have Adrian Seltzer online, and I'll promote her to a panelist.
Great.
Hello, everyone. Do I have to put the
Yes,
my
please.
know what I look like? All right. Hi, I'm in the dark, so really help you. Hi, Adrian Seltzer, Woodwood. I think the idea of every day. Okay. But the only thing I have a problem with is kiosks. They don't work all the time. They are time consuming to put money in. You have to enter a lot of stuff and then you have to re-enter. I know I'm an old person, but I have witnessed this with younger people, and I just have an issue with kiosks. The parking garage is only kiosk. I will gladly pay $1 an hour to not use the kiosk in the parking garage. There are certain other people who would also be willing not to pay that. I would be willing to pay the $1.50 an hour so I don't have to use the kiosk. In Havertown, however, where they do have kiosks, they do have parking meters that are meant for senior citizens. And I think this could be something to do. And will the key cards, the cards that we use, that we get refilled, the parking cards we use at the township building, still be working? Because I find that one of the best perks of parking in Lower Merion, that you can go get that card refilled at the township building and the police department at their parking area, and you can then use it, and when you're done using it and you have money left on the meter, you can get it refunded. It's just a silly thing, but people like getting a quarter or 20 cents back. So those are my comments. And I do suggest everybody get that card. It is really convenient. You don't have to search for change or anything else. So there I go. I'm done. Thank you for listening. And that's it. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Ms. Seltzer. Okay, before we turn to commissioner comment, can I ask either of you to speak to the comments that Ms. Seltzer made with regard to the kiosk, the meters for seniors, and the key cards? No pressure.
Absolutely.
Or yes, pressure, I guess.
Great questions. So this action does not change at all how parking works throughout the township. All we're asking for you to do today is adjust the rates. So the key cards will still work, the meters will still work, the kiosks will still work, whether, people like to use those or not use them, and as well as the app. So, all those, how people pay for parking stays the same. All we are asking the board is to adjust the rate.
Okay, thank you. All right. Commissioner comment or questions? Commissioner Zellow.
Thank you, Vice President Kramer. The memo's well done, Jerry. It certainly is time to do this. I'm very pleased to report that as the commissioner who represents Bryn Mawr, the Bryn Mawr Business Association, which I attend every month, thought this was okay to do. And they did have a couple of comments. One is, and Brandon, you may have said this in what your remarks, but the free 10 minutes is loved.
That's really, yeah.
So let's
really great.
keep that in place. I'm sure that's your plan. They asked the question, and I'm not saying I agree with it, but they asked the question, do we want to extend meters from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m.? And you don't have to answer that now, but I think it's something staff should consider, and maybe other commissioners have some thoughts on it. Because of, the meter turnover is vital for the health of our stores, and perhaps that also applies to our restaurants. And so, and that we have more and more restaurants in our business district, and that I expect to continue. And then I would, Jerry, you spoke to us recently about, at some point, do we remove the meters? And I was concerned about so I thought the Park Mobile app had some, wasn't always user-friendly. I think I would just say that when it gets to the point when it's improved, further improved, it probably does make sense to remove the meters. I don't know when that will be, but I guess I'd ask you to, continue to evaluate that Park Mobile app. And then finally, I'll ask our manager to have a conversation with his counterpart in Haverford Township, since we border them. In fact, they have meters on Lancaster Avenue in Bryn Mawr that the average person doesn't know that for a block they're in Haverford Township. Think billboards. And so that block would make sense for them to enjoy, or probably be aware of what we're doing, to consider doing that themselves for all the good reasons that are in this memo. So thank you, Vice President.
Thank you, Commissioner Zelov. Other commissioner comment or questions? Commissioner Churchill.
Just a point of information, how long are these present parking meters going to last? When are we going to have to replace them?
Commissioner, that's a whole different topic that gets into the eventuality of perhaps considering getting rid of meters and going to only app-driven parking. We are faced, Jerry is faced right now with the fact that POM, the company that has manufactured all of our meters, is going out of business.
Yeah. So
at some point, we're going to be unable to get parts for our meters, and that may drive the eventual analysis of moving to a app-based parking sooner perhaps than we want, but that's kind of a future consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Any other commissioner comment? Commissioner Epstein.
Quickly represent, I don't consider myself at a very advanced age, but I also hate the kiosk and the app, and I work in app design, so I think I can say it has a lot of faults. So when we're considering things, feel free to give me a call. I have some suggestions from Park Mobile. Thank you, that's it.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comment? I want to just thank you for, I know this was a big project to try to figure out, what would be fair parking increases. I think even with the increases that you're proposing, this is still a steal. Parking in Lower Merion, I think, is cheap compared to, say, Philadelphia for the most part. So I think it's more than fair. I agree with Commissioner Zelov that I would fully support extending hours into the evening. In Ardmore, maybe even past 8, where there's shows at Ardmore Music Hall until later, and if we want to manage that parking better, I'll leave it to you all to figure that out. But I think people would pay the fees, and it wouldn't be an issue. But thank you very much. All right. And you know what? The last thing I'll say about that, I don't know if it's ever appropriate to would be appropriate to add Sundays, but maybe in some spots it would, and I think that people would pay that too if you think there's, need. Okay, I'll stop talking. All right, all those in favor? Any opposed? No abstentions, except Josh, maybe, I don't know. Okay, thank you. Madam Secretary, that passes unanimously, and then we will move on to item number 2. And I will begin by making a motion and then turn things over to the superintendent. A motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners authorizing the Township Secretary to advertise notice of intent to adopt an ordinance to amend the Code of the Township of Lower Merion, Chapter 145 thereof, entitled Vehicles and Traffic, Article 15, Schedules, Section 145-101, Schedule 1, Speed Limits by rescinding the 40-mile-an-hour speed limit on Lancaster Avenue from City Avenue to West Wynwood Road, and imposing a 35-mile-per-hour speed limit on Lancaster Avenue from City Avenue to West Wynwood Road, and Section 145-103, Schedule 3, by prohibiting right turns on red at Lancaster Avenue and Remington Road for east traffic, and Lancaster Avenue and Haverford Station Road for westbound traffic, and at Montgomery Avenue and Airedale Road for east-west traffic. Do I have a second? Thank you, Commissioner Churchill. Superintendent Black.
Good evening, Commissioners. So on the first item that you read off regarding the speed limit reduction on Lancaster Avenue between Remington and City Avenue, that came as a result of a study that PennDOT did in conjunction with our traffic safety unit for enhancements at the intersection of Remington and Lancaster, and then going east on Lancaster. So one of the recommendations from PennDOT after they did the study was to reduce the speed limit from 40 miles per hour to 35 miles per hour for a number of different reasons. One is only 57% of the vehicles are traveling at 40 miles or less. So it's a good percentage where they're down, and it's more reasonable to have that. In addition to that, the other information we have is on the proposed improvements, which include the installation of the turning lanes and the red light camera at the intersection of Remington and Lancaster are the other drivers on this. So that's why it's before the board this evening to reduce that. And even once it's reduced, PennDOT's already had the signs posted, authorized us to pass the signs. Once the ordinance is approved, then we'll be able to do speed enforcement down there as well.
Awesome. Okay. Comments from members of the public in the room? No? Online? No? No? Okay. Commissioner comment. Commissioner Grimes.
Thank you, Vice President Kramer. Superintendent, do you believe that reducing the speed limit by 5 miles an hour is going to significantly reduce the speed of traffic on Lancaster Avenue?
Not of and by itself, but I believe with the other enhancements that are going on at Lancaster and Remington with turning lanes being installed, as well as the Arley program with the red light camera, that will have a significant reduction in speed because of those enhancements. And it's also related to pedestrian safety down there as well. That's the other reason that PennDOT looked at that, to reduce the speed limit. So in this day and age too, with the technology in our vehicles, if you have a newer vehicle when you're driving, those vehicles automatically, if you have the dash forward or on your internal dashboard, when the speed limit changes, it comes up on your dashboard. So there's an additional awareness with that. The other thing is we are working with our legislative partners to try to get first-class townships eligible for speed cameras as well. So there's a lot of enhancements that we're going to continue to work on to make our roadways more safer for our pedestrians as well as the motoring public.
So let me just make a comment, and thank you. And let me just say first, I agree with you. I think that the red light camera, terrific. Pleased to support that. The other things, if we can only get the use of speed cameras for your force, that would be terrific. But my concern is that the reduction, based on the means we have to enforce now, isn't really going to do much besides make all of the people, and there's a lot of them who speed, that much more violators who, frankly aren't going to get cited. I wish they would. I mean, I think our experience on Montgomery Avenue, where we limited it to 25 miles an hour, we all drive. Montgomery, I'm assuming most people here have the same experience I do. If you drive 25, you're tailgated, people go around you. I see school buses going 40 miles an hour on Montgomery Avenue. No, I don't know, except for maybe all the rest of you, because I've already admitted that I don't go 25. If all the rest of you do, you're probably the only ones. Right, go ahead.
Right, so one of the things with the vehicle code and the enforcement, we are not permitted to start issuing citations for speeding until the vehicle is a minimum of 11 miles over the posted speed limit. So by reducing this, it's going to take it up to 46 versus 51. So there is a difference with the reduction.
Right. I guess I sort of feel like it creates, though, a sort of a artificial sense of security amongst those who follow the rules, and also is making, although it's funny I'm saying it makes other people lawbreakers when there's, they just do it and there's really, because of, we can't have speed cameras, there's little enforcement. But I'm reluctant, I'm not saying I'm totally opposed, but I'm reluctant to support a reduction when I don't believe that in and of itself the reduction will do much besides change signs until we have other means of enforcing. So, yeah, I'm sorry, you may, you're welcome to retort what I'm going to say. I'm just, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Whalen.
I think it is perfect for me to go next because I will implore my esteemed colleague right next to me to support this. I think as most people know, my backyard backs up to Lancaster, right in this section. The average speed is probably about 65 or 70 behind my house. That includes trucks and everything else. I have been talking to the Traffic Safety Department since well before I came on this board. And essentially the issue in this location, we need all the help we can get, basically. I wish we could have speed cameras. We definitely need a full, that is the most dangerous intersection in the township as determined by PennDOT. And it has the most number of accidents, the largest, most significant number of accidents, the most people going to the hospital from the ambulance on every measure. And so I don't know if everyone knows this, but PennDOT is undergoing a complete redesign of that intersection right now. It is not solely focused on traffic calming, but that is part of it, to try to help everyone get through that intersection safely, and most specifically for pedestrians to be able to cross it safely, which there is a synagogue right on that corner, and it is an extremely dangerous place for people of that synagogue to be able to walk, which is part of the faith. But one of the difficulties, according to traffic safety, is regardless of the speed in this location, you have a lot of backyards, you have the side fence of a private school for handicapped children, and then you have sort of the backyards of Indian Creek, and then you get to the giant hedge wall that is St. Charles Seminary. And so there's nowhere for the police to go to try to stop the traffic. Right? There's, as it's been explained to me, there's a few spots here or there for a police car to be able to try to get to. So, anything we can do to try to limit the speed, reduce this. I would also say on the west side of the road, there's about a 2-foot wide sidewalk with no verge. I dare anyone to go walk that. It is harrowing on a Sunday morning, let alone any other time of year. So I would basically beg everybody to just give me whatever you can to try to help this segment. This segment also from City Ave to Remington is the only section from, I think, Chestnut all the way out to like beyond Radnor or Berwyn even. That is 45, it was 45 miles an hour and has now been reduced. Everything else was 35 miles an hour or less on Lancaster.
Was it 40, so it's being reduced to 35?
40 to 35, sorry. So, for whatever reason, this one section has been extremely heightened speed. And, it's extremely fun when you get the big trucks blowing by, ripping all the leaves off, and then they slam on the brakes and all the houses shake as they're coming up to the light. So, I implore everything, I applaud everything you're trying to do. Anything we can do in that area, obviously PennDOT's going to come first. They're going to completely redesign that. I love the idea of red light cameras because 5 or 6 cars, every light, go flying through that. And it blows my mind that people make a right on red there because, regardless of where you're sitting, there is no chance you can see, down and make sure that you're not running into traffic. So thank you very much for that long-winded soliloquy.
Thank you, Commissioner Whalen. Any other commissioner comment? Commissioner Bernheim?
Thank you very much.
Sorry.
I think Manager McNeely was...
I just want to be clear with commissioners that the reduction in the speed limit has already been ordered by PennDOT. It's already signed on the road. And so all we're doing here is making our code match what is out on the road and has been already ordered and put in place by PennDOT.
Can I be Emily Latella and say never mind?
There's a minor interesting detail.
We couldn't have that.
That wasn't,
Don't hold back, Ernie, come on.
that wasn't particularly clear.
Yeah, I was going to be short anyway. It is so pleasing to hear something. Yeah, that's a first, he says. It is so nice to hear something about speeding that's not a stop sign or a bump in the road, and it still remains to be the #1 complaint we all get, so doing something is fantastic, all for it. So thank you very much. The end.
Thank you, Commissioner Bernheim. And yes, thank you for proposing these improvements. I fully support them and think that they will make people safer along Lancaster Avenue.
Yes, for Commissioner Grimes, it's the 3 E's. It's a little bit of enforcement, a little bit of education, and a little bit of engineering going on with this section of roadway. So that's what we're moving through with it.
Indeed. And you are able to enforce speed limits. It's just difficult. It's difficult but not impossible with the existing technology,
There's
right?
1 or 2 locations down there. We're not going to disclose where the officers will
Yes.
sit, but it's a 2-officer operation simply because of the length and the width of the roadway and the speed.
Yeah.
So, and we also have passive enforcement. We will put the speed trailers up as well from time to time, which reminds the motorists to slow down when they're driving that section of Lancaster Avenue.
Indeed. Okay, thank you. All right, with that, we'll call for a vote. All in favor?
You didn't talk about the second part of the motion.
Oh, the no turn on red restrictions? I thought you did.
I'll be more than happy to address that right now for the board.
Go right ahead.
In conjunction with the automatic red light camera enforcement program that we've received the approval from PennDOT, the first intersection to have that technology installed is going to be Remington and Lancaster. Then it'll be Havard Station and Lancaster, and then Montgomery and Airedale. One of the requirements with this program is that the no turn on red placards are established at these intersections simply because it's part of the grant application as well as the operational part of it. Obviously, if we don't have the no turn on red, somebody makes the right on red, it's a violation, and that's what the camera's going to pick up. So it's adding more safety in it for the intersections of Haverford Station and Lancaster and Remington and Lancaster. So there'll be a no turn on red sign placed at both of those intersections.
Terrific. Thank you. Okay. Any comment on that portion? Commissioner Zoloff?
Superintendent, what's your expected date to install the first red light camera in the
We're
township?
hoping by year's end it'll be up and functional with the vendor, that GATSO, the vendor that we're working with. So we're excited about it, we're very excited.
Thank you.
Great. Any other comment? All right. We'll call for a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, no abstentions. Madam Secretary, that passes unanimously. And now we'll move on to our third item. There's no action on this item. The Superintendent of Police will review statistics related to police department activity, such as traffic stops, community policing efforts, and crime. And before I turn things over to Superintendent Block, I just want to preface this by saying this is hopefully an ongoing conversation. If this goes well, and I see no reason why it wouldn't, we'll do this potentially on a regular basis and provide the community and the police department and commissioners with a regular opportunity to just have open communication about how things are going in policing. And that is it's one of our goals is to increase communication and build trust. And so this is in service of that goal. It'll be up to future boards to continue to carry that on. So tonight's, it's a trial run, right, of this kind of report. And I'll ask for your help in figuring out, what the relevant data should be in this. We're looking to see, what's helpful to hear about, what didn't we hear about that you'd like to hear about, and we'll just continue this feedback process as we go. Sound good? Okay.
Thank you very much,
Yes.
Commissioner Kramer. So what I'd like to provide the board with is an overview of what the police department's been doing over the last several months. We'll focus through September, simply because we do not have our October report done with it being so early in November, but that'll be forthcoming. A couple of things that we did do in October is we had the open house here at the Township Building. So the police department had it on October 25th. It was well attended from 10 to 1. We also, during that time, we had the DEA drug take back, where there were 6 full boxes that were taken up to the county participating in that. And that's very important to get the narcotics and the different medicines that are no longer used off the streets and out of the medicine cabinets at home. We're also participating in a food drive right now through November 7th, and that's in conjunction with the Preston and Steve Camp Out for Hunger. And a lot of that is collected, we take it down there, they weigh it, they recognize it, and then a lot of it will come back to our community because it's in combination with Fill Abundance. Some of the other items that we've been doing as far as our community-oriented policing, we've had over, for the month of September, there were over 12 appearances that we were at throughout the township, whether it be at schools, things of that nature. I know you have copies of that, but that's something that we do every month. We have those reports internally, and they come up to my office just to see what we're doing as far as our community-oriented policing. And on that note, on November 12th, I'd like to invite everybody, if they're available, to Coffee with the Cop. That's next week. It's going to be at the Dunkin' Donuts from 9:30 to 11:30 on Greenfield Avenue in Ardmore. So it's another one of our community outreaches with respect to our community-oriented policing. Some of the crime trends that we've been seeing in the township, we've had 3 burglaries in the month of September, and there was an attempted one as well. So it takes the number up to 4 as far as the crime trends there. None of these burglaries were related to the South American theft groups. They're local. They still remain under investigation by our Detective Bureau. Also, we had 8 theft from motor vehicles. I am going tomorrow evening. I've been asked to come to the Penguin Civic Association to talk about that, and we also have officers going to the Belmont Hills Civic Association tomorrow evening to speak about it, because Belmont Hills and Penguin have been the 2 areas that have seen most of this activity. So we want to be proactive and make sure that we're getting the word out to people to make sure that they lock their vehicles. If they hear or see anything suspicious, to notify us by 911 right away so we can respond. We have information that these are young juveniles that are coming from other towns in the Lower Merion to commit these offenses, these crimes. So we want to stop that. And for the month of September, there were 34 individuals that were arrested for a number of different offenses, including 14 for DUI, 4 for retail theft, 1 for criminal mischief, 2 for protection from abuse violations, and 1 for trespassing, 7 for an assault, 2 for indecent exposure, and 1 for endangering the welfare of a child, and 1 for a drug violation. So the police department stays vigilant with respect to the enforcement and the crime detection and crime prevention. For the month of September, our department responded to 5,172 calls for service just for the month of September, and calls for service year to date at the end of September were 47,503 calls. So we're a busy police department. Our public contacts and appearances for the month of September were 50. Our departmental tours, which we normally do, we had 3 for that month. Car seat checks, we have passenger restraint technicians here that will assist new parents installing the car seats. There were 17 seats installed in the month of September. School hours were 2 hours where officers were in the schools doing foot patrols and getting to know everybody in the schools, as well as the administrators, the layout of the schools, and the faculty. Residential commercial surveys that we do in lockdown drills in the community, there were 4 in the month of September. We also had 157 vacant house checks for the residents that were away and have registered their houses for those checks. Our social media posts for the community engagement were 11. Blackboard Connect alerts were 2. One of them in September was basically for what we were doing with respect to our car seat program now that the summer was over. And our officers provided 1,334 foot patrols during the month of September. It's one of the discussions I had with our officers when I first arrived here, that it's important that they are out of the car and they're doing the foot patrols and engaging the community. So we had over 1,300 for the month of September. We have Lock for Life program. The Lock for Life program is where the officer will come out, they'll install one of the vials at the residence that in the event that there's a medical emergency there's pertinent information that's contained in those vials for the officers, EMS, and or the fire department if they respond. So we had 8 of those that were installed in September. And our co-responder, right now we still have one, Mr. Edward Nibblins. He had 45 contacts and follow-ups for the month of September. So he's been busy as well. And the school bus camera violations for September were 834 violations that were approved and sent out. In addition to that, we're always busy with our traffic enforcement, which makes it one of our priorities. So there were 921 motor vehicle violations for the month of September. Out of that, 757 traffic citations were issued. The other remaining numbers were the traffiterias, which is all calculated as one. The traffiteria is part of the parking program because the beat officers do enforce parking violations on their beat. Year to date for the motor vehicle violations is 7,933 violations. The traffic citations year to date at the end of September were 6,400 citations have been issued for various traffic violations, and the traffiterias were at 1,638. In addition to that, warning notices were, for the month of September, 407 were issued for traffic violation notices. That's your warning versus a citation. And year to date, there's 3,164 warnings that have been issued. And then equipment violations. If an officer sees a vehicle that has equipment violation, they stop it. They issue this repair in order to have the vehicle repaired. Rather than taking money out of their wallet, we asked them to put the money towards the repair on the vehicle. So there were 751 issued in the month of September. Year to date, 6,780. I just want to provide an update for the board and the public on our recruitment process right now. The last time I spoke with the board, I advised everybody that we had 71 candidates that had gone to the background phase. Right now, we've hired 2 officers. There were 4 conditional offers that were accepted with the intent to hire. We've had 29 disqualifications out of the 71. We'd had 17 of those candidates that have withdrawn. So at this time, we have 19 that are still in the process of the 71. So we're moving that forward. And I feel confident with the next round of conditional offers when we request them and they're approved, we'll have additional officers coming on the department itself. So we maintain very vigilant with that, with the recruitment and the hiring process, and we will most likely be coming back to the board in December or January to have a spring recruitment platform and an examination then as well. We want to keep those numbers up. 2 areas that I just want to notify the board on. One was very, very recent. Recent as Monday. We are participating in Operation Clean Sweep. That operation is with Montgomery County, Delaware County, Bucks County, the city of Philadelphia. The district attorney's office of all 3 collar counties have been involved in this. We're involved in it with our drug task force officers that work for the Montgomery County District Attorney's Office, as well as our detectives. So part of this Operation Clean Sweep is there are transactions being made with drug transactions in the city of Philadelphia, and they're coming into our community. So as a result of this, we participate in the task force, and there's been several stops made of vehicles and arrests made. Particularly a week and a half ago, there was one vehicle stopped that was suspicious in nature. Under this program, the vehicle fled. The detectives and the drug task force officers continued to do a remarkable investigation. They were able to determine who the owner of the vehicle was and the female that was riding with him at the time when they fled. This information brought it back to one of the apartments at 335 Bala on Writers Ferry Road. And once we got additional information through the investigation, the officers and the detectives applied for a search warrant for the apartment where this individual was supposedly residing. Search warrant was approved, and on Monday morning, late Monday morning, our emergency response team and our detectives and officers went to that location. They executed the search warrant. There was nobody in the apartment. When they entered the apartment, it was clearly evident that this is a stash apartment where drugs are being stored and then they're being farmed out to local dealers. As a result of this, there was 55 pounds of marijuana that was in this apartment that was confiscated, over 1 kilo of cocaine. There was also money counters in there, narcotics ledgers, over $2,000 in cash, and in addition to that, there were 80 packages of gummies that were in there that if they're in a store, any one of us would go and we would buy that. That's how well they've manufactured these. So as a result of that, warrants were issued for the individual that was renting that apartment as well as his significant other, and they have both been taken into custody. But this is a very significant arrest in that we're taking these drugs off the street. They really never made it to the street because it was a distribution operation of narcotics out of this apartment. The street value is estimated at $130,000. So it's great news for what our officers are doing. It's 335 Ballot. It's the Ballot Apartments on Writers Ferry Road, on the right-hand side when you come in off of Belmont Avenue in your ward. So we're keeping everybody safe with that. And coupling that with the grand jury report that I sent out to the board and the police department, Kevin Steele, our district attorney, impaneled a grand jury about the vape shops and what's occurring there. We still have active investigations with several of the shops in the township, and this is not something that we're going to let go of. We're going to continue to do the investigations and the enforcement because it's my opinion, it's a very hazardous situation with these stores because of what they're putting on their shelves. Nobody knows exactly what it is. So this is in conjunction with it. This is a perfect example with our investigations and what they yield on it. So that's the snapshot that we have right now within the police department. We're in the busiest time of the year generally for us, but we enjoy doing it and we're constantly engaging. And we'll continue to provide you updates with some of these significant investigations, keeping our community safe.
Thank you, Superintendent. We'll now turn to any public comment from those in the room. No? Anybody online, Madam Secretary?
Yes, Adrian Seltzer, and I'll promote her to the panel.
Okay.
Hi, Adrian Seltzer, I'm still in the dark. It's very relaxing. I would like to compliment it's Superintendent Block, right? Yes. Okay, thank you. I couldn't remember the title exactly. On all the activity that they're doing to keep our townships safe. I was especially aghast by the figure of 800 passing the school buses in a month. That is like a horrifying amount. And I'm glad these people were caught. I have a question about the traffic stops and stuff. In previous years, there's been information where they break down by demographics those stops on the website. Will that be there or is that there already?
It should be there. We're continuing with that practice.
Okay, thank you. And that's it. And thank you for the great work you do trying to keep us all safe in Lower Merion Township and making it a great place to live.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Seltzer. Okay, I'm going to now turn to commissioner comment and questions, but with a little caveat that we just stay away from ward-specific questions because we all have a million of them and we want to get home at some point. And if you do ask a word-specific question, I'm going to ask Andy to tase you. So don't do it. Commissioner Whalen.
I kind of want to take the bait on that and see how far I can go, but I'll hold up. I just, since this is the first time we're doing this, I thought I would say, that was spectacular.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the most in-depth snapshot. I feel like snapshot's an incorrect word for what you just threw at us, and I really appreciate it. I think it was a great idea to bring this forward. I applaud everyone who thought about it and all the work. Clearly, you know, that was an extensive presentation that you just distilled into about 4.5 minutes. So.
And that doesn't happen overnight. It's our men and women in the department that are putting that together. So we work as a team.
Absolutely.
So.
And I hope that you take my applause to them.
Oh, absolutely.
And everything, you know, from top to bottom, everything that you were saying is just spectacular, and I love hearing it. And we are very lucky. There was one thing I wanted to clarify. I think you said you had a special event for a medicine drop.
It was part of the DEA drug take back, which happens twice a year, the last weekend in October and the last weekend in April. So in the fall, we combine it with our open house here, but we always have the drug take back boxes in the lobby of the police station. So residents can come in at any time and dispose of those medications.
That's what I wanted to make sure of and make sure that we say is that there is always a drop box for medicine, expired medicine and whatnot, which I think is just an education piece that we don't get out to people enough. You just walk in, you don't talk to anybody, you throw it in there, and it just gets it out of the house, doesn't get flushed. I mean, it's really very helpful. And secondly, I mean, you mentioned it very quickly, the police tours that you guys offer. If nobody has done it, I've taken 2 tours with Cub Scouts of the police station. The police are extremely magnanimous of walking you through this. And one of the funniest things that you will ever see is grown men and women, let alone children, trying to put on the vest that our officer just walked in on. You have no idea how heavy that is until you drop it on your shoulders, and they walk around it all day, every day, which is very impressive. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Whalen. Commissioner Kramer.
I just want to say thank you to you and all the officers for helping to keep us safe here in this community.
Oh, it's our pleasure, and we'll relay all this to the department. Thank you.
Commissioner Zeloff.
Thanks, Vice President Kramer. That's an outstanding report. I haven't heard one so thorough and comprehensive in a long time. And so I'm sure we all appreciate how things have been improved and tightened up in the police department. Did you mention the increase in the number of traffic citations over, the prior period? And if not, can you do that in future reports?
I've given you year-to-date. I can update you with that, with the previous years.
I think we all appreciate that. I'm sure it's an increase, but the numbers will be helpful.
Yeah, they are up, but I'll provide that to you. I'll give you an email with that.
On my way over here tonight, it was dusk. I can't believe what I saw and almost hit were youth on scooters by the new Ardmore train station. With no lights, let alone helmets. I understand the challenges with young people and, how do police manage and deal with that. But at dusk with no lights is a huge safety issue. I don't know what the answer is, and I'm not asking for it, but I want you to be thinking about that.
Well, we are, and I'll respond to that. We are in the process of putting together a high-level education campaign about this for the entire township and the community, because it's not just scooters. We have people on the e-bikes, and it's a danger to everybody. We want people to be safe, and so we're working on that, and hopefully by the middle of the month, we'll have that out, for the entire township. It's every community is experiencing this right now, and it's very concerning. It's very concerning.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice President Kramer.
Commissioner Zeloff. Commissioner Bernheim.
Thank you very much. I would echo everybody's thanks to you, everyone on your staff, Vice President Kramer, everybody who had the idea of doing this. Superb. And I said earlier, the #1 complaint we get is about traffic and speeding. And then frequently in those complaints, it's, what are you doing about it? Can you giving us some statistics would be a problem to circulate to us that which you rattled off, so that we can say, here's what we're doing about it, and then P.S., slow down. Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
we had the press conference here last week for the aggressive driving. It was hosted here in Lower Merion, so those grant funds are being
Yeah.
released over the holidays, so we're doing additional enforcement.
And I know online, because I referenced it to everyone else, that, yearly, there were statistics that were put out there about all that's, has taken place year to year. But if we can add this at this interim and then be able to circulate it to those who contact us, that'd be fantastic. And again, thanks to everybody involved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Sinai.
It's okay. Thank you, Vice President Kramer. So yeah, this was a great presentation, but I think it wouldn't have been so great if the Lower Merion Police Department hadn't done such amazing work to fill in these cells on this table and all the information that you rattled off. I'm just doing some quick math. It's something like 170 calls for service per day that are being responded to. It is, we were extremely fortunate, we see this a lot, we were extremely fortunate to have such a outstanding police department in this township, and they're doing incredible work. 1,334 foot patrols, so nearly 40 per day, I guess. What does that look like?
So they have their different tab areas. If you've done ride-alongs with the officers, they go out on a tab, so it's an area that they'll walk. So that's how we compute that. So if they go out on tab 22, it's noted, and they're out. So in tab 22, it may be one part of the commercial district of Ballacumuit or Marion, but they're out. At night, they're checking stores, they're checking doors, they're doing security check. During the day, they're out there talking to merchants and the residents and whatnot. But like I said, it's important, they know that, and I've asked them to get out of the car. It's important to break down the barriers, so that they're out and they're accessible to the community. If there's specific issues happening in a neighborhood, that will also trigger those foot patrols. So we're out and we're looking for any issues, quality of life issues. Some of those foot patrols go on in Bryn Mawr, specifically around Kelly's, at different times of the week because of the activity.
I didn't want to say it, but I'm glad you did.
I'm just saying because there's different activity, and there are reports that are generated for the community up there, and a lot of that is done through the foot patrols as well.
Okay, so if I translate the 1,334 instances into, it sounds like it is a meaningful amount of time during a officer's patrol, if they have a foot patrol component, that they're out of the car and on the street, whether it's at night or during the day.
Correct, on their unallocated time. So if they have no calls, they've done some traffic enforcement, they manage their beats, if you will. They'll get out and they'll do those foot patrols.
Okay, I think that's great. I think it's a really important component of policing around here, and I'm glad to see it here. Anyway, thank you very much. Thank you, Vice President Kramer.
Thank you, President Sinai. Commissioner Dr. Rossman.
I'd like to compliment you. I know you don't take compliments for yourself. You always include the department, but you've brought an enormous amount of energy and organization forward, and we really appreciate the communication and all the great jobs that everyone under you are doing. We're proud to have you and the entire police force here in Lower Merion Township. When you said it's the gummies that any one of us would buy when we walked into the store, you want to clarify that or not?
No, never mind. The one I looked at, it was the Lifesaver gummies. I'm like, wow, I do get them. I go to the Wawa, but I'm not going to these other establishments because you just don't know.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rossman.
Thank you, Commissioner Rossman. Other commissioner comments? Thank you for doing this and putting this together, and thanks to everybody in the department who helped to put this together. It sounds like it is a success and that we should do it again, for sure. I have a couple of specific questions about this, about the report. With regard to the, what I don't see on here is ride-alongs, and I know that you offer ride-alongs. So I'm doing a little public service announcement to invite members of the public to reach out for a ride-along, because I think it's a great way to get to know an officer and just talk about policing and just talk about Lower Merion. And you don't have to tell us right now if you have had any takers recently, but maybe in the future you'll have some information on that. With regard to the residential surveys, can you talk a little more about? So if I understand correctly, I can call the police department and say, you know, can you come and look at my house and tell me where the, you know, where the soft spots are if you know, for burglaries and stuff like that? Can you
Yes,
talk about that?
we'll do a security assessment for the residents in the township. All they have to do is call, and we will have them with the staff and inspections unit, and the officers go out, and they do, it's free of charge. It's helping them, you know, to make sure that their houses, you know, the target is hardened, you know, with shrubbery, lighting, alarm systems, things of that nature. We just put information out in the newsletter that just went out last week to remind everybody, you know, we're fortunate right now, I'll knock on wood, the SATG burglaries, we haven't had any since the spring. This is the prime time. Yep. So we've already ramped up patrols in those areas, but we also put it in the newsletter. So residents, you know, we remind them to make sure when they're leaving the house, put your alarm on, make sure you lock your doors and your cars as well. Lock your cars, don't leave valuables in it. But the answer to your initial question is yes. All they have to do is just call the non-emergency number and we'll schedule a date and time to come out and perform that service for the residents.
Thank you for that. I was thinking about, this is burglary season, right? Sort of, as it gets darker earlier,
Correct.
right? And the hours that homes are most susceptible is in the early evening, like before 7 o'clock.
5:30 to 7:30, once the clocks change. So that's where we do our emphasis, because that's where we see it, you know, occurring. And I stated before, I've told the board before, they're very well trained. They know what they're doing. They're in and out. They're not waiting. You know, most of the time they're doing a second-story entry because the chances are better than not that there are not alarms on the second floor, or there's just one in the hallway.
In each of those instances, people seem to put lawn furniture, like use lawn furniture to get up to the second floor. Is that right? Like, should people not leave their lawn furniture outside?
Yes, and that's one of the things in the advertisement was to make sure that you store that or keep it locked up. You know, the pool furniture or patio furniture, they were using that.
All right, thank you.
And it's always generally through the rear. It's at the rear of the house. It's not in the front.
Good to know. I wanted to plug a couple of the programs that you have been involved in. One is Community Watch, right? I know that there was a recent class that Officer Swain, right?
Yes,
was a
he
part
did training, and it's back up. It's running very well. Carl's here. He's one of the original members. So, but we have new people that have come in, and we're in the middle of our Citizens Police Academy class for the fall. And we always ask them if they would like to come back and volunteer. We get them involved with the Community Watch. So it feeds the program.
That was the other program that I wanted to plug and ask you to just talk about a little bit, like, who, I know you guys are in the middle of it. I understand it's a full class, like you had to turn people away. Can you just tell people?
Yes, so we have a waiting list. So we do a Citizens Police Academy in the spring and in the fall. It's usually 8 to 9 weeks, depending on holidays and things of that nature. But it's one night a week for 2.5 hours. It's usually on a Monday evening. And each week there's a specific topic that is presented to the students in the class. So we'll start off with administration, then we'll go to patrol one week. We'll do traffic the following week, detectives, the canine unit. We actually have representatives from the district attorney's office come down, talk about criminal prosecutions. The detectives come in and they'll do some practical work with them with processing fingerprints and crime scenes and things of that nature. So I'm there on the opening night, have a good discussion with them, and I give them a homework assignment. I said, the night you graduate, when we all come back, I said, you have to ask me questions. I want questions from you, you know, from the academy itself. So, but it's another great way to bring in residents from the township. They get to know the police department. So they learn from us, but we also learn from them, what their concerns are, where they live, and, you know, how can we make their quality of life better for where they live.
Yeah.
And we do have a waiting list, so that's a good thing. You know, we usually take 12 is the max that we can have in the class to make it, you know, functional for everybody. So it's nice to have that waiting list.
Yeah, for sure. So there'll be one in the spring, March, April?
March, yes.
March.
It starts at the beginning of March. So and they usually run about 8 weeks.
Great.
And I encourage anybody here that would like to do it to sign on and go. And we get ride-alongs from that as well. That's one of the requirements they have when they sign up for it. They have to go on a ride-along with the officers. So it's good.
And so do incoming commissioners now, right?
Anybody.
That's it.
And we're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So If you have some insomnia, you can come in at 3 o'clock in the morning and ride around. It works.
Great. Well, thank you all for your questions, and to Ms. Seltzer for her questions, and thank you again, Ms. Superintendent Block, for making this presentation. Let's do it again.
I'd like to thank you and the board for you know, the unbelievable support you provide to the police department. They are second to none, as you know, and I'm humbled and very to be the leader of this police department. I'm just very humbled and grateful for it. So, and they do a tremendous job. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and that concludes the business of the Police Committee.
Well, thank you, Vice President Kramer, and in turn, that concludes the business of the Board of Commissioners.
If I may.
If
Thank
you may, thanks for the warning.
Because, President Stein, I know it would not be your style to congratulate yourself. So permit me, if I may, to congratulate you and Commissioner Zelhoff, both for having been re-elected to the board and to the township for being wise enough to do so. In addition, we're going to lose 5 of our colleagues who we will miss because of their contribution. But we have 5 new colleagues that have also been elected to the board who I have no doubt will also be value added. So with that, I congratulate them, you guys. Now, feel free.
Okay, so with that, we are done for the evening. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.